Okay, so I'm going to sound insanely capitalist here, so pardon me if I sound too brutal. I come from a background, as you can see, I've circumnavigated a lot of different companies. I've worked in startups, I've worked in corporates, had a lot of experience. One of the things I learned in the last sort of 8 years throughout my career is that I don't personally like risk. And the idea of starting something up is entirely insane to me. Why would you give anything up, anything that's a six-figure salary up? So what I'm going to talk about is my process of de-risking, how I de-risk my way into doing a startup. So to start off, startups are freaking hard. It's one of the hardest things you can ever do. Here's 4 lines that I created with a couple of co-founders I had in my time at Pollenizer. And it reads like this: ideas are worthless without execution. Execution is worthless without traction. Traction is worthless without revenue, and revenue is worthless without profit. So insanely capitalist. That's the only reason why you go and pursue this dream. So one of the things that tie all this together is this idea of worthless. So at any moment, what you're doing could go to zero. So why would you do it in the first place? Now, along my journey, as I reflect back and think about all the things I've done, I've actually done a lot of things to get to this point. A lot of startup founders often talk about that Promethean moment where they found the idea that's going to make them $1 million or that's made them $1 million. But I don't see it like that. I see it as every single thing that you've done in the past actually leads to that moment. And that moment makes you certain that you're going to achieve the things that you want to achieve. So here are some of my moments. Okay, so the first one is understanding code. Now here's a photo I've took recently at the UNSW School of Computer Science, recently where I went to pitch Pocketbook. So one of the things I kind of stood there and realized was doing a computing science degree was really rewarding in the context of where I ended up. So that understanding of code, although I've never programmed professionally in a day in my professional life, the understanding of code really helped me to converse with people that I work with. So me and my co-founder have this language around, how do we talk to customers in order to get the right information so we can affect the thing we're developing. So that was a really important experience for me in the scheme of things. Next, I spent a bunch of years working in management consulting and strategy work for large companies. Here's a spreadsheet of one of the things I did in my time. So one of the things I learned from there is this insanely detailed notion of trying to find the right answer and making assumptions and finding recommendations and really sort of that data-driven approach, which everyone talks about today in the startup world. So I learned that in the corporate world, and now I'm applying it on a day-to-day basis. The next thing, and one of the most important things I talk about, is this idea of runway to work, right? Which is the money you need to actually stand aside, quit your job, and actually go and do something wonderful for the period of 6 to 12 months or longer if you can. So it comes in 2 ways. It comes in savings. That's probably the best way to do it because you can assert your direction, and it comes from raising money. Like Ahmed there, being able to raise enough money to go as long as you want. So I did a couple of things to prepare for that. I invested in property early. So I've got a property portfolio that's currently generating me positive income, which means I can actually go and work. So I've prepared for a number of years to get to this point where I can actually go, hey, I'm going to quit my six-figure salary job, and I can go and do the things I want to do and go and change the world. The other thing is actually understanding how funding works. I went and joined Cine Angels, an angels group that was raising money. I invested in a couple of startups and went through the investment cycle a couple of times to be able to understand how it all works. So today, when it comes to raising money, I've actually found it markedly easier than anyone else out there in the market. And the next thing, and the most important thing, is probably the hustle. Now, the hustle is something that Ahmed talked about throughout his speech. And the hustle is all about selling before you actually had the product. I experienced this really early in my first job where I was actually building and selling work before I understood how to do it. I was selling $100,000 projects before actually understanding exactly how to fulfill the work. So And now, finally, it's about the idea. It's about the $1 million idea that you think is gonna take you to the place that you want to go. Now, my perspective is, for the idea, for you to firmly believe in the idea, you got to be convinced that you only want to actually own 5 to maybe 10% of it, and that's enough for the idea to actually not have to work for the rest of your life. So unless you have that conviction, probably wasting your time. So go back to your 6-figure salary jobs and fulfill your life that way. Okay, so if you want to get in touch, it's Bosco at getpocketbook.com. If you want to check us out, it's getpocketbook.com. And the main takeaway message from all of this, I guess, is actually, it's never about that instant moment that you decide that you're going to be a millionaire entrepreneur. It's actually about all the pre-work that you've prepared yourself for. So all the road lead to that moment. And, whatever you do today isn't a waste of time. So go and enjoy your days. Thanks.